Hello and welcome to a conversation with another special guest we have today, Professor Arniika Kuusisto from University of Helsinki. She's a professor of early childhood education at University of Helsinki, a guest professor at University of Karlstad at Sweden, and honorary research fellow at University of Oxford, UK. A very warm welcome, Arniika. A pleasure to have you with us. I'm Kinnari, a faculty member at Azim Premji University at the Bengaluru campus. So, Arniika, welcome to this conversation.
Thank you.
It would be nice to know your professional journey. I mean, there's such a huge amount of work and research you've done around children and childhoods and education. If you could unpack that for us, your professional journey so far.
Yes, so my background is in classroom teacher education, so I'm primary school teacher with my basic education, and then I was teaching at schools both in Finland and in England actually, because then I wanted to do some more research quite early on. So what I was very much interested in was how values are transmitted in the family, or why are they not if they are not, and how that mechanism works. So that's what I started studying already actually in my BA thesis and MA thesis, and then after I had graduated and worked in a primary school teaching Finnish and English, then I started planning my PhD in order to dig deeper into that topic. And then after that, I did a postdoc where I was looking at the diversity in Finnish schools, because it was quite there was quite a lot of new situations where there were so many mother tongues in the classrooms, and then the policies needed some updating, and the teachers needed more methods. So then I researched that, and also then in the same in ECEC, in the early childhood education side. Then I have studied values and worldviews from many perspectives, and the place of religions in societal education, and for example.
Okay. That's a wide spectrum of work with regard to direct engagement with children, researching, and finally influencing policy. So if we were to understand your work around studying and understanding children, what would that be? And would you like to share with us a few key examples of the way you've gone about understanding children and childhoods? That will be of good value to our audience today.
Yes, so I have been very interested in the interplay between the individual and the social environment, and social environments, I should also say. So, for example, in my PhD study, where I was looking at the minority youth and how they negotiate the home values in different societal and also minority contexts. So, for example, if there is a big difference between the religious minority values at home and then the peer group or the societal school setting, like how do they actually navigate between the different expectations and norms, and then at the same time, how do they keep their own identity?
Right.
And what was very interesting there was that actually the teenagers, so they were between the ages of 14 and 18, so they had sometimes totally different ways of navigating their values, but then at the same time, what made one person happy, that solution maybe didn't work for the other one.
Right.
So, for example, I have written an article about some cases where I have this boy who is 16, and because the community value was very strong about not drinking, no alcohol, and then once a year there's a big festivity around May Day in Finland, and all the teenagers go partying then. So he didn't want to be excluded from the peer group, but he didn't want to break the values of the family.
Yeah.
So then he decided that, okay, he will go along, but then he will not drink. And that was a good solution for him. But then there was another 16-year-old, she was a girl, and she had a musical hobby. And then they went touring with that musical group. And then they had a disco arranged for these teenagers. And so she basically made first the same solution, that she will go along, but she will not do any partying. But then she told me afterwards that, oh, I just sat in the corner and felt miserable all the time. So sometimes these like in navigations and negotiations, you have to be happy with what you decide yourself in order for it to work for you.
Yeah.
So
and like you said early on that the critical youth and teenage as a phase of identity development, and where are these negotiations and boundaries getting created for yourself and your position in the society become so critical. And one can imagine the diverse experiences and diverse stands that each of these two cases seem to have taken. If we go towards a little younger age group, what would some of those examples around values be?
So we have done different studies where we have usually used quantitative and qualitative data sets. For example, in another teenage case, we have over 4,000 youth from Finland who have answered our survey, and then 45 in-depth like life history interviews. Then we have some comparative data from Sweden, Finland, and Estonia, where we look at the experiences of inclusion and inclusion at school. And then, but then one of my pet child projects, what we are doing now, and a previous one where we are looking at very young children's values between the ages 2 and 6, and then with 2 follow-ups. So the oldest ones become then around 8 or 9 during the process. So there we give the children tablet computers for a week to document what is important and valuable in their own lives and why. And then we have also made some support questions like in your near environment, etc. And then after the week, they can explain their own data to the researcher, who can then ask more questions. So we call that basically like audiovisual autobiographies, AVA. So that is actually quite a, in a way, novel approach, because there has been very much research on children, not really by children or with children, like this approach is aiming to do.
Right. That's interesting. And just to give a context, countries like India, just for our audience, Finland and other developed countries, children in those countries, like very much now in our country, India as well, are quite conversant and quick to engage with technology. So using a technological tool to actually help them capture their own selves and their daily lives seems pretty effective. And in their natural environments. That's something you seem to be trying with your research.
Yes, and if I can add to that, not all of them have ever held a laptop computer. They are just very easy to use. And they learn very quickly.
Exactly.
So, for example, the 2-year-olds, we basically show them like this is how you take pictures.
Right.
And there are like there's a drawing program which is very simple, and they have made some video clips and things like that. So it's basically just pressing buttons, and the parents and teachers will help.
Right.
So the instructions are actually written for the parents, because the children can't read most of them yet.
Right.
So.
Quite interesting as a tool and a method, and it's actually adults engaging and helping children with the technical aspects, while children actually figure their own what they want to capture.
Yeah, it depends. It depends. Some
Yeah.
of them just use it themselves. Or
right.
they are shown 2 minutes, like this is where you press what, and then they have it in their own disposal for a week.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So based on this extensive research work that you've done, what is your insight on children and childhoods.
Yes, I think what all of these data sets actually, but especially these young children's autobiographical data illustrates is the like what Steven Vertovec calls the super diversity, like the diversifying diversities within any society. How that is like made so concrete through these children's life stories. Because when we look at values, for example, or the way that they perceive the world and do meaning making, there are elements from Minecraft. There are elements. I mean, the Minecraft element is actually interesting because some of the 6-year-olds told me that, okay, in my next life I want to do this and this, and then I thought, okay, I have done my study of religion sociology, so I mean this must be the different religious movements in Finland. And then the child said, no, this is the Minecraft game that we all play with cactuses and zombies. So when in the video games that there is like one life, you lose one life, then there's the next life, and then the children told me that after all these lives are finished, then you have the eternal zombie life. So it's as simple as that. So it actually influenced the way that they see the world. Right. And then there were like Disney elements from Elsa and Anna, how the Frozen, there's some magic, and how the magic element is true in the pretend play and that kind of things. As well as then, of course, like Christianity, there was one child said that actually whispering that, yeah, I know actually it was Jesus who magicked the world. My grandma told me. So, I mean, you can see how the various different traditions come together in the families of the present day.
Right.
And also like all kinds of course, home cultures and traditions and languages, etc. So what this methodology enables is that we grasp a little bit of that in the children's lives.
Right.
So I think that is actually very important when we think of teaching and schools and for example, in the Finnish educational system, religious education is taught according to the child's own tradition. And of course, so they belong to something, but actually what the data illustrates and what the recent research illustrates also more broadly is that what actually is Lutheran or what actually is Adventist, what actually is secular. There's a vast variety within every tradition or worldview. And also, of course, the families might have, father from this tradition, mother from this tradition, grandparents from different ones, and then the children come up with their own worldviews in that.
Right.
So they are really super diverse in that sense.
Right. So 2 points that you highlighted is, or rather one central aspect is that perhaps every child seems to have a very unique family context and context within which they develop their own worldviews. And therefore, I wonder, as parents and as educators, especially as educators, what would be some of those essential components or principles that they would need to keep in mind as they plan looking at every child, especially the young child in the classroom, or even for that matter teenagers, when they are have such unique context and a unique person themselves. What is it that the educator would need to really keep in mind?
Yes, I think that most important thing is to encounter every individual as a unique person.
Yeah.
So rather than thinking that, okay, this child is Lutheran, so that's why he or she thinks this way, or they think this way, and like avoiding all the stereotypes in that sense.
Right.
And listening to the child, asking questions, discussing life questions also with the group, because young children have a lot of questions. We all know as parents and teachers that especially in a certain age, children make also very difficult questions.
Yeah.
They ask like, what happens? Oh, we saw a dead bird by the path in the forest. So what happens to this bird after it has died? And like, what happens to old people when they die, and that kind of things. And sometimes, at least in Finland, people like teachers get very scared of these questions,
right.
Because they think that they are very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they are very difficult.
Yeah, they are very difficult.
I'm not saying that they are not, but the point is that they often, what is done is that they are not answered.
That's
because
right.
Then the teacher might like get a little panic and say, okay, now let's all go to the washroom now, and then we eat, and then we, and then we are in a rush. We can't take that question now.
Yeah.
So actually, Professor Emeritus Niels G. Holm, who was a professor in the psychology of religion, what he says is that actually the child gets a very clear message that this question is not allowed here in preschool if the teachers don't engage with it.
Yeah.
So, and of course there are situations where it is actually a rush, and you do need to go somewhere. So then maybe the teacher should say to the child, "Oh, what a wonderful and difficult question. Let's come back to that.
Yes.
Now we need to, do this and this and this, but let's come back to that, and then actually also come back to that."
Right.
So then I think engaging with the whole group, sitting the children down on the floor or mat, and then saying, okay, this Matti here posed a very important question, and I don't know the answer either, because there are so many different ways to see this question. So what do you all think? So like open up the question and hear everybody, and we don't need to get correct answers.
Right.
And this kind of teaching, or is it even teaching? It's like thinking together.
Right.
So that actually democratizes the knowledge very well with the children, and also between different worldviews, that there is no correct answer to all life questions.
Yeah.
What is a good life is another one. Like, what's the meaning of life? What is good life? How to be happy?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this kind of big life questions, they are there for all of us in one way or the other. And children are very often left on their own, too much on their own, with the very individualistic educational values, like in Finland. So there's very much like, okay, let's, like, even the parents might think, okay, we will just see what this child decides to become like. And I mean, we don't do that with mother tongue. We start speaking them some language, and then we see what they want to learn later. But they need to have some background and some values that we help them with.
Right.
And then they can, say, oh, I don't want this religion or language or national identity. I want to do something else, but they need something to, oppose to at least.
Yeah.
And we, of course, want, I mean, that's a need for them to have some background.
Right. Interesting. So, again, a couple of very important things that you highlighted is that every question the child asks is important. And questions about life and death and such others that involve a certain worldview and perspective are even more critical to be answered, or at least collectively thought about. And often, like you said, as parents or as teachers, we tend to just not answer because we find them difficult to get to the child's level and engage with it. Right. Thank you. Are there any other such critical insights on how should we therefore look at teacher education, for example, especially teacher education for young children and say teachers who work with adolescents as well? I mean, what would be some of those core areas that teachers of different age groups need to be cognizant of in their work, and therefore we prepare them in our teacher education programs?
Yes, we are actually having a project, doing a research project about this in Karlstad University in Sweden. So we are looking at the place of worldviews and religions in the Swedish teacher education, and we have all the different, all the 19 different university educations in this project that we are analyzing. And I think it's very much to do with what I just said about the uniqueness of every child and also every family and also every colleague within the working community, because we sometimes forget that also each of us has a very unique worldview. Because we and that's how we do our own meaning making, and it's like a philosophy of life, if you like. And it can be religious or non-religious, or it can be hybrid, and I think most of us have some kind of hybrid worldviews nowadays. And these are very fluid for young children because they are still like putting the pieces together. But even the youngest children who come to preschool, they already have a worldview. So I think that the teacher educators should very much be aware of this and again like be ready to be brave. In the sense that, like you say, we are scared sometimes of these questions, especially when they come like sometimes like totally behind the corner, like we say in Finnish, that you are not prepared for these questions. So just, allow yourself to breathe and say, okay, yes, let's discuss this together and also be brave about not knowing all the answers. We sometimes have difficulty with that, with the teacher authority, but I think actually it shows much higher authority towards our students and the children in preschool and our colleagues and the other teachers when we are honest, because children are very easily detect if you lie.
They're very perceptive.
They are very perceptive. They are very sensitive about realizing if you don't actually somehow if you are not honest in a way. So it's very much more important to be honest and say, okay, this is what a difficult question. And also what is very, very important, especially for the teenagers, but also in the other age groups, is that of course, even if we discuss, we are open, and we need to keep the space safe. Like we talk about brave space also in research nowadays. So you have to make sure that nobody is excluded or bullied or anything, that there have to be like rules set for the safety of the space, recognition to all the answers, but then at the same time, if somebody is saying something that is actually discriminating, that is of course not allowed. So everybody's perspectives are important, but then there is a limit. We have to be in line with the law, and we have to be democratic in the sense that everybody's views are of same value, etc. But then there is of course non-tolerance to racism, non-tolerance to all kinds of bullying and discrimination. So that kind of rules need to be agreed beforehand, so that everybody has actually a voice. And also we don't always remember that it requires much more brave or courage from those who are in minority. It's much easier to speak, to be loud if you have a lot of people who are like you. But if you are the only one from some tradition in a big school of 360 like I was when I was growing up, so then it does require much more courage. Yes. And that is sometimes easy to forget.
So thank you, very interesting. I mean, you've highlighted several points, starting from recognizing our own identities as teachers or as teacher educators, giving the space to explore, recognizing the need to explore, giving the space to explore, and finally, as a very pedagogic element, looking at boundaries and looking at rules and what is accepted within the space and rule of law. I think these are very, very pertinent when we think about how is it that we translate the idea of good education, safe education, caring for the child, and finally how does that translate from a formal teacher education program to something which is at the level of the teacher and finally at the level of the child themselves. So thank you very much, Arniika. I'm sure you've written a lot about this, and this is just a little glimpse that we are hearing today from you. A final question for which I like to ask all my guests is, in the current times that we are, what are some of the one or two key things that you would like to leave a message for our audience, especially young people who are wondering how do we engage with the world outside and find their own space today?
Yes, that is actually interestingly, in a way, exactly what we are studying now in this current project, because our focus is on the young children's existential resilience, basically the well-being related to them finding their own place in the world. The feeling that they are rooted somewhere and that they are rooted also in the relationships, the social environment, but then also the planet, in terms of the climate and the nature, and somehow being rooted there and finding that kind of also hope, because many children and young people are worried about the climate change, worried about the news from around the world, and of course the recent pandemic has left its mark on many children and youth. So I think that this kind of finding hope in agency, in doing your own little bit towards better futures, I think is very important. And when you do it together, you have a shared value and agency. So I think that is very helpful for also your own well-being.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you to our audience for listening, and you may want to check out on the range of work around values, worldviews, and looking at hope and resilience, work done by Arniika and her team on several projects. Thank you so much. Thank you, Arniika, for being with us.
Thank you.